Yeah, may I know also about what is your strangest experience, strangest, and that you are difficult to deliver or to explain to people about the nature, about what happened when you were flying, and your experience, something happened to you with the nature, not with the people. I mean, like something that me, for example, I don't fly aircraft, so I don't have any experience. Can you share with us the strangest or most
Terrifying. Yeah, terrifying.
Terrifying,
it's
or
always
maybe
weather.
most majestic that you almost impossible to explain.
Well, just stick on this theme of fear, okay? Because you do live everything. You go through every emotion in the cockpit.
Yeah.
But coming through Europe, again, this is the flight to Australia, but we had some of the worst weather I've ever flown in over Romania. A huge system blew in, a huge depression, and we were just racing to try and get through to Bucharest. So we had to come through the Carpathian Mountains. So it's a whole mountain range. So initially it looked okay. So up there flying amongst the peaks, which was just surreally beautiful. But to the south or to the east of that, just a whole sea of cloud. And of course, it's so deceptively beautiful, but you can't overfly the cloud. You need to be able to see the ground or holes in the cloud in order to get through. So we then had to double back, drop down, and come through a valley. And the cloud base just got lower and lower. The turbulence got worse. It got darker and darker in the rain. And at this point, and I've got one of the crew with me. We obviously had the camera ship was flying somewhere else. So you are absolutely on the deck in awful weather, and you're thinking, oh, this is, what do I do? Put it down in a field, and that's almost what you're thinking. You're now down to about 200 feet. You're just flying above power lines and above the tree lines with very limited forward visibility. This is about as dangerous as it gets, and it's petrifying, I can tell you. In that instance, we were able to fly through, once you're out onto the open plain. So we got within about 5 miles of an airport where we could go in and land. But by that point, it was clearing and we were able to get on through to Bucharest. But it's petrifying. And you do think, wow, is this how it ends? And believe me, that's a universal experience. That's what the pioneers went through. It's a bit like Amy's experience over the Timor Sea. It's terrifying. I was going to say the other experience of fear. Let me think. Well, of course, the crash, when I crashed in America. That all happened so quickly, there wasn't even time to be frightened. But, here's the thing. You can have an engine failure at any point. Okay, the worst time it can happen is on takeoff because you're so low, and that's what happened in America. I ended up having contaminated fuel, which blocked the carburetor. So just 30 seconds after takeoff, I'm in the high desert in Arizona. So I'm already taking off at what was the equivalent of 7,000 feet above sea level. Now, bearing in mind, again, this is an aspirated engine. I've got no supercharging. So you're already taking off at that altitude, okay, where you've got less than half engine power. So it's a long takeoff roll. The aeroplane is slow in the climb out. You've got to be very, very careful. And then half a minute later, I lost 300 revs per minute on the engine. So there was a loss, a partial power loss, but it was enough to stop the aeroplane flying at that altitude. If I'd taken off at sea level, there probably would have been enough power for me to just fly around and come in and land. But at that, taking off in the high desert like that, in thin air, we were going in, basically. So all I could do, there were power lines ahead. All I could do was just turn very, very gingerly through a 30-degree turn to the open desert and fly it into the ground. Because the worst thing that can happen is that you stall the aircraft and then it goes in vertically, pancakes in, and that is the vertical forces that kill you. And that's often what happens in an engine failure after takeoff. People try and turn back to the runway and they don't make it. So I just turned, landed in the desert and just flipped. It somersaulted as we hit. But the sort of the whole superstructure of the aeroplane, the big double wood wings just absorbed the energy of the crash, and we're right in the center of that as it rotated around. So it stopped right way up. So we were able to just step out, in an almost normal situation, although, the undercarriage had been wiped off. The airplane was virtually destroyed, but the cockpit was perfectly preserved. And the boys, of course, were flying overhead filming this. So I just sort of gave them a thumbs up, we're absolutely fine. But that was that. You see, that potentially it sounds terrifying, but it was much more terrifying flying in the weather. This was too soon to register fear. More than anything else, I was actually angry. I was thinking, bloody hell, this is a nightmare. I was angry about it as I went in. So that would have been my last emotion if I actually had been killed in the accident. Irritation.
Thank you for sharing with us. I mean, your emotion, your real emotion in dealing with those scary moments.
Right. Thank you, Karini. Thank you so much.
All right.